Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Coach Les, and I'm here with Mr. Yarwood from Yarwood's Martial Arts, and this is the Ymamat Chat StreamYard videocast, talking about benefits and lifestyle support from martial arts proficiencies all the way through to your life leading lessons, learning, and taking it out into the world. Because clearly in today's world, there is no organization that's out there teaching you common sense, life skills that you can use both on the street, in school, at home, and in this particular case, in the martial arts studio. So today we're excited to be with Mr. Yarwood, and we are going to be taking on the conversation about sacrifice. Woo! And the role of sacrifice in martial arts and in life is both profound and universal. It's woven into every level of practice and personal growth and often becomes a defining element of character. And we're going to be speaking about 7 different aspects, 4 in martial arts and 3 in life. But we're going to get started with a little introduction from Mr. Yarwood. Over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. I think people view sacrifice as, I don't know, a challenge, because I think sacrifice for people is like they don't want to give anything up, right? And when you put something in front of them, options, I guess you could say, they typically are going to take the easy one, right? They're not willing to give up certain things, even though, like it's like you'd always say, if I could show you a way to become an amazing person, in shape, fit, great attitude, all that stuff, and all you have to do is give up an hour of TV every night, would you do it? Some people were like, I got to give up TV? What? But I like my shows. It's my downtime, right? Whatever the excuse may be. So unless you truly, I think that the problem is, unless you truly want something, more than likely you're not willing to sacrifice other things to get it. And it becomes a battle, I think, with people to make those decisions about short term versus long term, right? What are you willing to give up now to have what you want later? And some people don't want to give up the now for the later. And then they get to the later and wish they had given it up earlier, but now it's probably too late, or they're not going to get as far as they would have had they made the decision the first time. Because if you give up things now for the later, ultimately you'll be able to do the things right now, the things you're doing now, later, and still be where you wanted to be when you first made the decision. So I think there's a disconnect between short term and long term, and people have a challenge seeing the long term and what it's going to take to get to where they want to go.
Yeah, and I think the point that I know about this is we only have 24 hours a day and 7 days in a week. And for a lot of people, we are already packed full and busy. So the question then becomes, what are you going to sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
For many years, I was one of these people that would sacrifice sleep. Now at 61 years old, not a good idea. And I
love sleep.
And I don't have the resilience that I used to have. So it's one of those things for me where I am very much engaged in creating a better balance and having this thing called sacrifice, because it is a sacrifice, choosing for me to have my time be spent doing martial arts. Yes, somebody may say, well, Les, what other exercise are you doing and how are you staying healthy? Yep, I get it. And this is the choice that I've made to do that piece. And when I think about that, we touch in the martial arts here, we touch, as I said, 4 points: time and consistency, comfort and ego, physical sacrifice, and pride for purpose. And the one thing that I've become crazily aware of is the physical sacrifice at this point, in this age in my life. When I get hurt now, I'm not bouncing back in 24 to 48 hours. And some of the things that, in ways in which I get injured now, are a longer term. and then what? Right? So I'm clear that it does take sacrifice. It does take long hours of training, sacrificing time with friends, family, leisure, and the mat becomes another extension of home.
I think physical sacrifice, you can look at it from both sides, right? When you are training, regardless of your age, but typically older like us, your body is gonna it's gonna respond differently. You might be sore after a hard workout. You might be tired. You might, maybe you tweaked a back or something, but nothing major, right? I think what happens is ultimately you're going to grow from all the things that you've done, right? You sacrificed your body for. You're going to grow. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get, maybe you're more flexibility, whatever. I think if you're not doing it, if you're not being physical and not taking those steps to have physical activity, your physical sacrifice is going to be where if you're sitting around doing nothing, or you don't go for walks, or you don't do anything, your physical sacrifice is immense. Because if you're spending all your time sitting on the couch, eating, they used to say eating bonbons, you're going to get overweight. Your muscles aren't going to be active. You're going to have muscle hypertrophy, not hypertrophy, atrophy, because they're not using them. So the physical sacrifice is one or the other, right? Either you're going to get stronger, get better, and take chances that maybe you get hurt, right? But if you don't do anything, I can guarantee you are going to waste away physically, and you're not going to be able to do anything as you get older. It's more important that you're physically active, because you are prone to injury. You are prone to a lot of things that you wouldn't be necessarily as like a 20-year-old kid. So it's more important to be physically active. So the sacrifice comes with, okay, what are you willing to give up in your life, right? Are you going to be able to, say, maybe you have grandkids and you want to play with your grandkids, but because all you ever did was be sedentary and not do anything, you sacrifice that time you get to spend with your grandkids, or doing fun things, going on hikes, going on vacations, because you physically aren't capable of doing them anymore because you sacrificed it. So those are choices you have to make. Which one are you willing to sacrifice? And what is it that is of value to you that you want long term, that you're giving up, something now to get?
And that same thing is the same thing in life. There is no separation. Goals require trade-offs. If you're going to create goals that push you, that expand who you are into the next level, real progress is going to be, what are you willing to give up?
Yep.
And it's not about money and I don't have it, or it's not about this and I don't have that, or any of those things. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with looking and exchanging, because, quote unquote, reality says there are 24 hours in the day, 7 days in the week. How are you going to spend them?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the discipline and devotion is really where it comes from. If we look at how much time we waste, people would be flabbergasted if they actually did the homework to look and see, how much time do you waste?
Mm-hmm.
And the best exercise for this that I know is sitting down with an Excel spreadsheet and managing from Sunday to Wednesday every 15 minutes of your day for 4 days. Every 15 minutes.
The irony in that is that that's sacrificing too.
It is.
But I got to do what to do what?
I call it the reality check. I mean, I'm pretty disciplined with how much I can pack into my day. In fact, I overpack, which then has its own set of breakdowns, being a couple minutes late because somebody else was a couple minutes late to me. And the ripple goes, you know, I mean, you can't throw a pebble into a pond without the ripple hitting the shore. So that being said, in life, that love and legacy, I believe, is that same piece. The same piece for me exists in martial arts, love and legacy. And when you're in that space, you are clearly diving in at a level that is profound, and the changes, the transformation that occurs is off the charts.
Yeah, if we look at that part, parenting. Parents, when they bring their kids into martial arts, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are sacrificing something as well. They're sacrificing, maybe time doing other things. Maybe they have work that they got to get done. Maybe they got some errands they need to run. Whatever it is, right? Time spent with other people. They're sacrificing that, but they're also, when they've decided that the sacrifice is worth what it is, because their child is getting something from the martial arts that ultimately is going to be something good for them short term and long term, right? So parents sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of things for their children. And I think you have to, as a parent, need to choose what are the things that are most important to your child, and what are you willing to sacrifice those things for your child, right? Certain activities might not be worth the sacrifice. There might be things that your kid does that's like, yeah, I don't know, it's not to you. It just doesn't seem worth it, because what are they getting out of that, right? So you have to, figure out what is it that my child needs, that I want to sacrifice my stuff for, that I know ultimately is going to pay dividends for that child. And I don't know, there's probably parents out there who their time is more important to them than what their child is doing. And then the child has to sacrifice, but they don't have that option, right? They're forced to do it. So as a parent, we're always making sacrifices for our kids, but we also have to make sure that the sacrifice that we're making is the right ones. That determination comes from, okay, what is it they're going to get out of this activity or this program or this whatever it is, and is it worth it?
Well, I think there's the good point, right? Is what are they going to get out of it if you're not creating what there is to get out of it? Right? There's no magic pill with any activity.
Nope.
I mean, am I one of those people that wishes there was? I'd love it. It'd be great. And there's the whole conversation of what does it look like? What is I'm going to be uncomfortable. Therefore, comfort and ego. Guess what? Martial arts humbles you. You sacrifice comfort by choosing growth through failure. Taking hits, losing sparring matches, learning from mistakes, and sometimes getting permission to move to that next level. Woo! And then, of course, there's, for me, and I'll be the first one to kind of jump out on this and share. I'm harder on myself than Mr. Yarwood is. And there are times when I go, I don't think I'm ready to test. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I know it well enough. I think I'm going to be making too many mistakes. And I literally want to coward my way out of it. And one of the things that I've had to sacrifice is my own conversation with myself and not looking good. And trying to do it perfect. And if I don't have it perfect, how am I ever going to move up? Well, learning that that's not what Mr. Yarwood is really looking for. He's not looking for perfection at this level in my game. He's not looking for perfection. He's looking to see the consistency of improvement, the consistency of what I'm up to and what I'm taking on, the consistency of growth and development in the minute detail of maybe even how I twist my foot in a kick, the foot that I'm standing on. And looking at those myriad of conversations and examples of where was he here and where is he now? And does that justify and does that equate to training and development that I, as Coach Les and Mr. Yarwood, as Mr. Yarwood, agree, yep, we're okay moving him on to the next level. And that was a really tough battle for me to get over. I had to sacrifice my own identity.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's a sacrifice and humbling yourself too, like making the decision like, okay, I need to do these things in order to get where I want to go. And they're not things that I feel comfortable currently dealing with. But ultimately I need to sacrifice some of that ego to say, okay, maybe I'm not going to get where I think I want to go because I don't have that capability or I'm not putting forth the effort to get there. What do I need to stop doing or what do I need to sacrifice in order to make it around where I want to go? I look at also too, for me as an instructor, I've found being also a school owner that I've sacrificed my personal training time to help my students progress. I've given up things that I love to do. For me personally, the reason I got into it in the first place, in order to make it so my students can progress, so they can perform, so they can pass tests, so they can learn forms and learn how to spar. I sacrifice my own personal journey for my students' journey, and I do it willingly because I know the impact that I can have on students is way more profound than my own personal journey. And I look at my instructors and what they've given up for me to get to where I am. So it's a there's an element of setting the example. Okay, what am I doing for me, or what am I giving up for me so that my students can be better, right? And I think ultimately, as they grow, they start to recognize what I sacrifice for them. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? But I look at it from a standpoint of, to me, it's important that what I give up, I'm willing to do so because of the impact that I can have.
I for me, I look and see, I think it is wonderful. Right? I look at it as, how do I say this? You're either expanding or contracting. And for me as a business coach, it's paramount. There is no sitting still. There is no hanging out. There you are either shrinking or growing. And then the opportunity that you're growing, how do you deal with that? What did you have to do to get there? What are the things you had to, quote unquote, give up to get there? And I look at the possibility of the taking of the stuff from Yarwood's martial arts. And just like I say, take in business, faith, family, business, taking that same complexity of stretching and growing and leveling up in martial arts, and what difference does it make in my life? What new windows of opportunity does it open up in my faith, family, and business? That's the miracle. That's the transformation. That's the place where, for me, there is absolutely no second.
Yep, it's a challenge because, I mean, you think about, there's so many things you want. I want to have nice things. I want to have a nice house. I want to be in shape. All those stuff, and everything that you want or desire takes sacrifice to get if you truly want it, right? And built into that is discipline to be able to, I don't know, what's it called, delayed gratification, I guess. The discipline to do the things you got to do now in order to get to the place where you want to be. And when you have that discipline, you're hopefully willing to give up the short term for the long term. And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to be in a position where you make those sacrifices. And there might be a huge sacrifice, or it might be just little ones along the way. Like maybe you've changed how you eat. You've gotten rid of some things in your diet that aren't good for you, right? They're easy to, well, I'll just have one. It's no big deal, right? But you have the discipline to sacrifice that single thing over and over again so you can get better and get to where you want to go. Little sacrifices along the way are probably bigger than one giant sacrifice because they're incremental, right? Little by little by little by little, they grow into a big sacrifice versus a one-time deal. So we all make little ones along the way. If we sit down and, like Coach Les said, and think about, okay, what is it that I'm doing? What am I sacrificing along the way to get to where I want to go? And then when you start to see it play out, you start to realize just how much it really takes to get the things that you want to do. So, it becomes a struggle. It becomes a daily, minute by minute, almost discipline to make sure that you're getting where you want to go, and doing the sacrifice, or having the sacrifice that you give up to get there is like when you actually see it, you're like, oh wow, it'll really start to glare out at you that what you're doing is actually making a difference, even though you're giving up stuff maybe necessarily you really want. Ultimately, you'll be able to get where you want to go.
So, in looking at what I'm willing to give up myself, at 61 years old, this is my second time around in this arena. I did it in my late 20s, made my way up about 2/3 of the way up to black belt, and now I'm back in the fray of it and working my way up into that same space. And there's now a new level of commitment called, this is a personal goal. This is a bucket list item. This is a thing where I know the benefits of being healthy. I know the benefits of being flexible. I know the benefits of the entire physical aspect of what I'm up to. And I also have experienced the negatives, getting injured, recovery time, being frustrated by all of that. And I realized that in that frustration, if I had not been careful, and if I didn't have the support of Mr. Yarwood and other people in my world, business coach, looking after my commitments, I would easily have walked away a second time. And I've given myself zero opportunity for that. And that's a tough pill to swallow for many reasons, right? Because I've now constricted my freedom. And I don't look at it that way anymore. I look at it as iron sharpening iron. I look at it as creating what's next with the benefit of a multi-year, 1,000-year-old paradigm shift into my physical that I now know makes a massive impact into my mental and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually chuckle at these people that are quote unquote Christian, that say, oh, being in a martial art, doing yoga, all of that is sacrilegious. There's things in there that, that you're honoring or worshiping this. It's like, wait a minute. I'm not worshiping Mr. Yarwood. No offense, Mr. Yarwood. I'm not.
That'd be kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm not worshiping a mission or a vision. I'm creating what's possible from the vision and the mission into my own world. What's possible by adding those things into my world. And I was, cheating here a moment ago and looking at Yarwood's martial arts mission statement, vision statement, and unique selling proposition. And I want to share these because I think this ultimately makes a huge difference. And then I'd love to have Mr. Yarwood close us out with a comment or two. Yarwood Martial Arts mission statement: to provide a safe martial arts training environment that allows students to grow in confidence and integrity, develop strong physical attributes, mental health, and indomitable spirit. We are building the leaders of tomorrow, one black belt at a time. YMA vision statement: to be a leading martial arts school recognized for our commitment to excellence and community impact. And the unique selling proposition: blending world-class instruction, character development, personal empowerment, and community building, providing individualized attention, ensuring all ages and skill levels achieve their full potential, instilling lifelong values of discipline, respect, and confidence that transcend the dojo. And the pitch, the sell at the end of this is one that I love. Join now for a transformative experience going beyond the martial arts, becoming the best version of yourself. Over to you, Mr.
Yes, sir. If you listen to all three of those statements, sure, we talk about martial arts, but it's not what we are about. We teach martial arts. That's the physical part. But everything else that's wrapped around martial arts, everything that we live, that we breathe, that we do, community, building these children into wonderful adults who go out into the world and change the world and impact the world based on what they're learning in our dojo. We just use the martial arts as the way to get to them, to use that. We use that as I call it a conduit to life skills, right? The martial arts is what gets them in the door, but then they realize there's so much more to what we do that we tend to realize that what we are, what martial arts is by itself. And to me, it's like it's life, right? It's how we live. It's what we do. It's how we operate. It's how we go out into the world and do the things we do. And I take it very seriously because I know the impact that we can have on these kids long term, right? And to be able to be a beacon of light for them, even after they leave the dojo, after they've no longer been training martial arts, they're going to hopefully bring all those things with them into their family, into their faith, into their work, all those places it's going to travel with them. So to me, it's vital that that's what we do. And I'm willing to give up my personal stuff to be able to impact all of my students that way.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Yarwood. I believe this was, what was this, episode number 38?
38, yes, sir.
And we are complete with that, heading into 39 next week. So stick with us. If you want to go back and review some, they're on Mr. Yarwood's YouTube page. They're on my YouTube page. They're on my LinkedIn page, our Facebook pages. And
you can find them podcasts too.
Yeah.
Like Apple Podcasts and everything.
Awesome. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you
on the mats.
On the mats.